the kind of kid who started a business in the playground, or were you too busy breaking the rules to bother with pocket money?
I was too busy breaking the rules to bother with pocket money.
So how was school? What was home like when you were growing up?
I come from the very typical dysfunctional family. I actually grew up in the States. I'm the first one to go to university. I'm the first one to create generational wealth. And so I think what comes with that is a responsibility to both pay it forward and also to give it back, because I'm always very conscious that if it wasn't for other people on my journey would have been a lot harder than it has been. I started my career in a very unusual way. Whilst I was at LSE, just around the corner, I was doing an economics degree. I was offered a job by the then super middleweight champion of the world, Chris Eubank Senior. I went through the British Boxing Board of Control, did all my licenses and became the first female manager in the world at that time. Whilst doing an economics degree at LSE, I can tell you which one was more exciting, and it definitely wasn't the economics degree. And I've been very, very fortunate to, when you look back on my career, it almost seems like a Lemony Snicket kind of series of mishaps and adventures and strange meetings. And when Chris retired, I happened to have a chance encounter with James Dyson at a time when he was literally just setting up Dyson in the UK. I then worked with James from around his kitchen table before he was Sir James for 5 years, and I set Dyson up in Australia, helped in the US, and then I got into the online space. I've never been afraid of taking risks, and I think that comes from my childhood. So interestingly, on the one hand, I've always craved financial stability. And then on the other hand, I've always been very capable of taking risks because I felt like, well, what have I got to lose? You know, something my mum, really instilled in me is, don't be afraid of taking risks, because whatever you do, you're never going to end up back here. And back here was in a hostel. So whatever I do, it's never going to be that bad. So I think I've just got a really healthy appetite for risk, not a crazy appetite, but a healthy appetite.
Having had all these different type of roles, how do you know when it's time to jump?
When it's time to jump can mean something different, because when it's time to jump, if you've got a career, it's more like, okay, so how do I leave this role to go and work for another company? But when you're running your own business, you still go through these thought processes. So sometimes you'll have, what am I doing this for? I might as well just go get a job. Everybody's been through that. And then the other thought process is maybe there's a particular part of your business that you're thinking, shall I carry on pursuing this, or shall I shut this down? And you're always going to have moments where you have to make decisions on, how do I know what my next move is? And I think the truth is, and this isn't rocket science, it's not any, great insights, but you have to listen to your instinct. And I really believe that our instincts are our brains working a little bit like the Matrix. It's our instincts are, when you're in a situation, our brains are recounting or recalling potentially thousands of situations that we've been in previously. This happened, that happened, and this was the end result. So when your instinct gives you a feeling about what you should do, it's not just some random woo-woo feeling that's been plucked out of the air. It's not because of where the moon is or what crystals you're carrying. It's because it's going into your synapses in your brain, and it's really trying to understand, okay, so Shaa, you're in a similar situation 10 years ago and you chose this, and then this happened and you felt like that. And then 3 weeks ago, this happened and that happened. And your brain is going through all of these different scenarios to be able to come up with your instinct in that moment, which is why, I don't know about you guys, but in my experience, anytime that I haven't listened to my instinct, I have regretted it. Even though I didn't spend a huge amount of time in America, I spent enough time to have somewhat more of an American attitude to things, which means I'll ask for help from anyone, like for anything, whether it's childcare, whether it's help around the house, whether it's help with an introduction, whether it's raising money, because I think asking for help is actually a sign of strength. If I ask Torie for help, number one, I give her the opportunity to feel valued in a friendship and in a relationship and to give, but also I give her permission to ask for help herself, whether it's for me or for someone else. So if we all ask for more help, what we're actually doing is making asking for help the norm rather than the exception, and making it's a strength, not a weakness, because we all have different attributes and strengths, and we're not actually supposed to do everything ourselves. That is an absolute fallacy. And so I've learned that if you ask for help, that is literally the only thing that will lighten the load, because the mental overwhelm for women is real. And I think it's okay for us to admit that it's overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming all of the time. It will be overwhelming in moments, but if we learn to ask for more help and learn to receive the help, because that's another thing. Sometimes people will offer you help and you say, no, I've got it. And I think that's the greatest lesson is learning to ask for help.
What do you do daily, weekly, to keep your energy clean, your mind clear, and not sobbing into a spreadsheet?
I wake up 5 to 5:30 every day, and I have done since I started working with Eubank. And actually, he was the reason why I got into that habit, because he used to go out training, and then he would call me. I think I must have been one of the very first people to have a mobile phone all the way back then, because he bought it, not me. But he bought it so that he could call me at 5 a.m. when he got back and tell me what had to get done that day. I really love the early hours where no one else can disturb me, when I can just have my own headspace and crack on. The truth is, I hate spreadsheets, so I try my best never to put my nose, let alone my head, into any of them. That's another thing I think is really important when you're a founder, is really knowing that you are not supposed to be good at everything. Your job as a founder is to be a genius at what you're a genius at, and then to surround yourself with other people who can support you. If you are made to feel like you have to be good at everything, you've got the wrong investors, you've got the wrong team, you've got the wrong co-founders, and you've got the wrong board, the wrong investors, all of it is wrong. Because your job is to know, maybe you're a genius product developer, maybe you're a genius salesperson, maybe you're a genius relationship person, maybe you're a genius ideas person, maybe you're a genius ideas person and a salesperson. That's a phenomenal combination. But if you are, it's highly unlikely that you're going to be a great CFO as well, right? Just telling the truth. Just get a great CFO and don't beat yourself up that that's not your bag. And by the way, if you're a great CFO as a founder, that's also great, because that's your skill set. Now, where you lack, maybe you lack on the creative side, bring somebody in, who's a great CMO. I don't know whether, when we started out, imposter syndrome was something that we talked about. I don't think it was. I don't remember it. And the interesting thing is, I feel that today we're in this world where it's almost like women are expected to say that they have imposter syndrome. We can't just be proud of who we are and confident. Nope, we have to have imposter syndrome and then justify how we're going to get over our imposter syndrome so that we can actually be good enough not to have imposter syndrome. And I'll be honest with you, I've never had imposter syndrome. I have always gone into meetings, whether it's somebody like Richard Branson, James Dyson, and I felt like if I'm in this room, there's a reason I'm in the room. People don't invite you into that room unless there's a reason for you to be in that room. So there's absolutely no need to have imposter syndrome, because you've already earned your right to be in the room by the sheer fact that you're there. Just because I've never had imposter syndrome doesn't mean I've never doubted myself. That's a totally different thing. Of course I've doubted myself multiple times, all the time, probably every week in some instance, right? But I'm very self-aware that how I feel about something. So I do listen to my instinct, and I do think, do I want to do this anymore? No. Okay, then I sit with it for 3 months, because I'm a big believer in the dip. And the dip is where you understand the difference between a dip and a dead end. We've all been in a relationship where we knew it was time to leave, and we kept investing more time, more effort, even though we knew it was never going to work. And sometimes it takes us 6 months, sometimes it takes us 6 years to get out. And I think the same is true in a business. And it doesn't have to be the whole business. It could just be you've decided to launch a new program, a new service, a new product. But your instinct is saying, do you know what, this isn't actually working. But the sunk cost that has gone into launching this product, program, service means that you keep putting more time in, you keep putting more money in, you keep putting more effort in. That's what exhausts you, that's what burns you out. So the self-awareness piece is like, how am I feeling about this right now? Is this still the path I want to be going on? Yes, great, carry on, double down. If it's feeling like, I'm not sure I want to be doing this anymore, give yourself a 90-day period, because oftentimes that feeling can actually be so affected by other things that are happening in your life. So you might have things going on in your relationship, in your family, that is making work feel heavier than it actually is. And so I never make a decision like that in the moment. I make myself sit with it for 3 months, and then if I still feel exactly the same, then you have to be honest with yourself and make a decision. At this point in my life, I'm only doing things with people that I love and that I really am passionate about doing. I do wake up early. I go to the gym 5 times a week. I'm big on my exercise. I'm big on my nutrition. You're a racehorse. If you don't take care of yourself first, who's going to? If the business relies on you and you're removed from the business, there is no business. I think the way you avoid burnout is by see it coming around the corner way before you get there. And I think that the community is so important in your role as founders, because just because we choose to do this crazy thing doesn't mean that our friends do, or our family does, or our partners do.
Or understand it.
I think finding yourself a community where you can be absolutely honest. You can show up and you can say, okay, I'm about to lose my biggest client. If I lose my biggest client, I've got, 30 days cash in the bank and then I'm screwed. You need to be in a place where, should you ever get to that position, and trust me, almost everybody I know has been in some similar position to that once, at least once, you want a group of people around you who say, it's okay, I've been there. Right, this is what you do.
How you define success?
My definition of success is, am I doing something that I absolutely love doing with people that I absolutely love doing it with? And am I being rewarded fair value for fair exchange? That's my idea of success.
If I was to give you 10 million quid and say, do something just because you love it, it lights you up, you don't have to think about any ROI, no audience, and no agenda, what would you do?
I would become a boxing promoter. I would. I love the sport. The sport made me. It created my career. I am a big fan of alpha energy. I think whether you're labeled as an alpha male or an alpha female, there's been so much confusion around the world. Being an alpha is just somebody who you feel safe around because they are resilient, they're determined, they do what they say they're going to do. It's not about your physical strength or size. It's about your capacity to show up and take care of the people that you care about. And for me, that's my highest value. I love the sport, and I think the sport needs an overhaul, and I think there's so much more that could be done. So that's what I do.